This is a video of a Yale Type A time lock made sometime prior to 1888 when the Yale company had introduced their line of time locks, beginning with the Yale B and C, and then in 1889 their D and E. This time lock, in similarity to the production models of the B and C, had rotating cogs in the middle that would wind the movements. Now, in this example, there were only two movements, and in the production models, there were three movements. And like the production models, there was this cogwheel in the center upon which this rotating table, like a Lazy Susan, would be mounted and would thus turn. Unlike all of the production models, there are absolutely no markings on this lock whatsoever. No numbers, no letters, nothing. So I am convinced that it was a prototype for that series of locks. And in fact, there was a reference to a Type A in the Yale papers, but there was never any reference to a drawing or any kind of production model. So I believe the A was simply this prototype. Now, what's very interesting about this time lock is its size, and it is much smaller than the production models, and that is shown here in comparison to a Yale C with the three movements that you can see here, here, and here. I believe that this particular mechanism served also another purpose, and that purpose was in connection with research that was also performed by this company here, the Chicago Time Lock Company. This was their first model that they produced in 1886, called the Chicago Perfection model, and this was model number 1. This model, in fact, was the smallest time lock to that point made. And it also, according to the patents, was designed not only to be a standalone time lock for emergency doors or small money chests, but also to be a time lock that would be integral with a combination lock. In other words, it would be mounted directly onto the wheel pack. And that is evidenced by the fact that this lock has a slot here for the fence to drop into, which this would then block, and a central hole. Now, normally, if it were ever made for that configuration, this flange would not be present. Now, to the best of my knowledge, this lock was never produced in the form that was meant to be mounted onto a wheel pack. However, if you look at a number 4 Hall wheel pack, one can see that it could be mounted directly onto it. And this is not mere speculation, because this is indeed what the patent had suggested that was taken out by the Gem Company. Now, what makes this so interesting is that indeed this time lock is identical in diameter to the perfection model by the Chicago Time Lock Company. And indeed, if you look at it, it is exactly the same. So, I think that the Yale company was also investigating a time lock to do the exact same thing. And like the Chicago Time Lock Company, I don't think that this research ever really came to fruition. So, instead of using this platform for their research into a time lock that would mount directly onto a tumbler system, there were alterations made so that you would have this winding toward the center here and this center cog, and this would have been used as a type of test bed to see how the rotating Lazy Susan style of lock would work. Another interesting correlation between these two locks is that if one looks very carefully at the mechanism, both of these were made by E. Howard, you will see that the adjusting lever here for fast-slow is absolutely identical to the lever over here. The cock that holds the balance wheel is exactly identical to the one in this model also. And the arrangement of the escape wheel cock being perpendicular to the balance wheel cock is also identical in this movement. So I have not had the opportunity to remove either one of these two movements from their cases, but I would be willing to bet that both are virtually identical, both made by the E. Howard Company.